Howdy, it's Kyle with an update to the viewer pin map. This map shows pins in the locations where viewers could live if they could live wherever they want. This is something that I've been doing to generate revenue for the channel without having to have a bunch of really long ads or sponsorships. So if you're interested in supporting the channel, you can skip ahead to the chapter I have talking about participating in this. You can see what it would take to get a pin on this map. Essentially, it's $5. You can put a pin in the spot where you could live anywhere you want based on your own parameters. And I will do an update video for this every now and then. The past couple times I've updated this, I've done it with a live stream, and not as many folks watched the live stream, so I wanted to do a regular kind of video talking about this, just going over some of the updates, some of the trends, and just some of the interesting spots that people have chosen. So this is a big wall map of the US. There's also one of Europe and the world that I'll show in a little bit, but I want to first just talk about some of the general trends of this map and see where people want to live. One of the first trends you might see when looking at this map is that people want to live in places that tend to be scenic. So you have a disproportionate number of pins in the west, and the parts of the east where you have them, you can basically see the Appalachians right here, some of the mountains of New England, areas around the Great Lakes. So some of the more pretty, more scenic type spots are a little more popular. So what I take from that is if everything is equal, housing costs, wages, cost of living, taxes, with all else being equal, people would rather look out their window and see an ocean or a mountain or a lake or a forest or whatever. But I'm going to go and talk about some of these more spots more specifically. Here, the Pacific Northwest of the US and the Southwest of Canada, this is where you have the largest cluster of pins on the continent. And so right here is the Seattle metro area. There are 20 pins in the Seattle area, which makes it the most popular metro area in the country. Vancouver here is the most popular metro area in Canada. Several others, Vancouver Island, Kelowna, up here is Banff and Calgary, Alberta. And you also have quite a few in the Olympic Peninsula here in Washington. This is the Portland metro area, and quite a few along the coast, and then some of these mountainous areas as well. So you get to the eastern part of these states, no pins at all, where it just isn't quite as scenic. Coming over to Idaho, overall not as many, very beautiful state. Coeur d'Alene is the most popular spot in Idaho here. This is Boise down here. Montana, again, just like Oregon and Washington, all the pins are in the western half of the state where it's a little more scenic. This is more high plains and not as pretty. Up around Glacier National Park, Kalispell and Whitefish, where you have a lot of pins. This is Bozeman, and this is the area right along Yellowstone National Park. And this is Jackson, Wyoming, which is just south of Grand Teton. So this is the small town with the most pins of any other. So you have the biggest cluster of pins in a small town there. Coming down into California, this is the state that has the most pins of all. There are about 84 pins, I think, in the state. San Francisco Bay Area, very popular. I think there are 20 pins in the Bay Area, but only 3 in San Francisco itself, which is pretty interesting. Sacramento, Reno, Lake Tahoe area, Monterey, San Luis Obispo, my favorite part of the state here. Los Angeles, San Diego is the second most popular city in the country for these pins after Seattle. A couple in the valley here, the Eastern Sierra. Coming over into Nevada, again, Lake Tahoe, Reno. This one is near Great Basin National Park, and this is fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada down here. Coming over into Arizona, this is Phoenix, so this is where the people live. That's not where the pins are. The pins are up here. Prescott, Sedona, Flagstaff, the area around Grand Canyon. Again, I mean, I'm going to keep saying this. Places that are more scenic tend to have more of these pins. Tucson, and then just across the border into Mexico is Puerto Penasco, often referred to as Arizona Beach because you can just drive pretty quickly right there. New Mexico here, Albuquerque, you've got several. Santa Fe is where you have the most, and you have some smaller mountain towns here. Silver City, Las Cruces, college town there, and so right across the border into El Paso, Texas as well. Colorado, very popular state for this. Bunch of pins here are Denver. These are Boulder, Fort Collins. You got Telluride, Steamboat Springs, all kinds of little small towns. These are all small towns here. There's not a lot of people in this part of the state. Beautiful scenery though. Colorado Springs, and again, this eastern quarter of the state is where you don't have very pretty scenery, and this is not as desirable for something like this. North Dakota, only 2 pins. This one's Williston near Theodore Roosevelt National Park, beautiful park. Bismarck, South Dakota, again, the pretty part of the state here is the Black Hills. This is Sioux Falls, the biggest city in the state. Nebraska, definitely an undervalued state, I think. North Platte, this is a small town, Cambridge, I think, and Omaha, but not a lot here. Only 2 in all of Kansas. This is a very specific one that somebody wanted at a very specific intersection near a lake. Pretty interesting. This is suburbs of Kansas City. Only 1 in Oklahoma. This is Norman, where the University of Oklahoma is. Coming down into Texas, not a lot in Texas relative to its size, and you can see most are right around here. San Antonio, Austin, Fredericksburg, Hill Country. This is the the pretty part of Texas. These two pins are Marathon, very small town. These 2 people moving there might double the population of the city. Right around here is Corpus Christi. Houston is the biggest city in the country with no pins, and it's the only big city in the country that doesn't have any pins in the entire metro area. So nothing in Houston. 4 in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and then Tyler. Coming over into Louisiana, got 1 in New Orleans, 1 just across the lake from New Orleans in Covington. 4 in Arkansas, but they're all right here, the pretty part of the state. Fayetteville, Collegetown, Bentonville, and Eureka Springs, very pretty area. Missouri, you got Columbia, Collegetown. That's something else that's very prominent on this, are college towns. So I don't ask people's ages when they sign up for this, but I'd be curious to know if the people that want college towns are college age or 20-somethings, or if there are people that want a smaller, because college towns tend to be kind of nice. But either way, this is a small lake. Some guy wants to be off by himself. Nice area. St. Louis metro area here. Coming up into Iowa, again, not a lot here. Ames, Iowa City, 2 college towns. Des Moines, Dubuque. Coming up into Minnesota. And once you get into this part of the country, I mean, I hate saying this over and over again, but this is where you have a little more scenic, a little more woods, and you have just a lot more pins. This is the Twin Cities metro area, Bemidji, International Falls. A white pin here is a handful of white pins. Those just mean somebody wanted to be in Minnesota. Someone said, just put me in northern Minnesota somewhere. If I just picked a random spot. This is Grand Marais, and Duluth is one of the more popular smaller towns. Wisconsin, surprisingly nothing in this part of Wisconsin except for way up here near the Apostle Islands. Madison, and these are all near Milwaukee, but nobody wants to be in Milwaukee. This one is a national wildlife refuge. I got this guy squatting on public property. Michigan, very popular state for people that are from there that don't want to move from there. This is a beautiful UP area. This is the town of Houghton, Collegetown. These 5 are Marquette, Collegetown. A couple of the islands in Lake Michigan, Lake Huron. This is Mackinac, Traverse City. And generally speaking, the Lake Michigan side of Michigan is the more popular side. People from Michigan tend to prefer this part. As you can see here, nothing on this side, the thumb, nothing there. 4 in Detroit, that might surprise people, but people that are a little more familiar with Michigan, familiar with Detroit, are okay with that. People that live outside of the area tend to really, really hate it. Coming out into Indiana, Indianapolis, and again, Collegetown, Bloomington. So that's a running theme here. But I'm going to switch sides. Coming over here into Ohio, you can almost see the I-71 corridor there. These are Cincinnati, Dayton suburbs, Columbus, Cleveland. Cleveland was the very last city that I got one for. There's none at all in Metro Houston. There wasn't one in the city of Cleveland before last week, so we now have a Cleveland on the map. West Virginia, not a very popular state, 1 pin, and it's near New River Gorge National Park, beautiful area. Coming down into Kentucky, these are Lexington, Louisville, and Paducah, so not a lot of Kentucky. Tennessee, Memphis, can't remember what that one is, on the Mississippi River. These are Nashville and Nashville suburbs, Chattanooga, and this is Knoxville and the Great Smoky Mountains right around here. And you come down in here to Mississippi, the very last state to have a pin, and now has 1 down here in Gulfport. So all 50 states have at least 1. So somebody finally gave some love to Mississippi. Alabama, got a lake up here, Huntsville, Birmingham, and down near Mobile. Florida, one of the more popular states. I think there are 25 pins in Florida. This is the Tampa Bay area, real popular on this map. Miami, I'm not sure what they call this. I call it the Central Coast, but this area south of Cape Canaveral, north of Palm Beach. A couple of beach towns near Jacksonville, a couple in the Keys. So, a decent number of people that want to be in Florida, and of all the ones in Florida, only 3 are not along the coast. So that's You know, it makes sense. People want to be in Florida, they want to be on the beach. Georgia, one of the lesser popular ones that's kind of surprised me. Only 2 in the metro Atlanta, 2 in Athens, 3 in Savannah. I thought there'd be more along the coast here, Brunswick area, but not a whole lot. South Carolina, again, I thought it'd be more popular. Charleston, only 2. Maybe Charleston and Savannah aren't as popular as I think they would be. I think they're both very desirable, but this is Pawleys Island near Myrtle Beach, Greenville, and you can definitely see the cluster in North Carolina. So Southerners that wanted to leave the state, a lot of them wanted to go to North Carolina. It's definitely the most popular state in the South. I mean, people just seem to like North Carolina. I like it a lot. I think it's one of the most well-rounded states in the country. And you can see it's the most popular state in the South. Of course, Florida's South. But I mean, of the heart of the South, this is the most popular state. Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham area. A few along the Outer Banks, real nice beach areas. Coming up into Virginia, again, you can see the spine of the Appalachians here. People want to live where it's scenic. This is the area around Williamsburg. This is the D.C. metro area. So there's several in D.C. itself, a couple on the Maryland side, but only 1 on the Virginia side of D.C. So at least from this very small sample size, people that want to live in the D.C. metro area tend to want to be in D.C. or on the Maryland side. Again, real small sample size here. Other than that, for Maryland, not a whole lot. You know, you got 1 here in the Panhandle, very pretty spot. These are, not sure the names of these towns, but this is kind of north of Annapolis and Baltimore. Coming up into Pennsylvania, 2 in Pittsburgh, 1 up here outside of Youngstown, Ohio, and got 1 in the Poconos, a couple in Philly, Easton right over here. Not a whole lot in New Jersey. Got Cape May down here, but not really much. 1 is in West New York, which is right across the river from Manhattan. Nice spot to have a penthouse condo. And coming up into New York, got Buffalo here. The Finger Lakes area here, very pretty. Adirondacks, another very pretty area people want to be. Hudson River Valley, again, very pretty. And then New York City Metro. I had quite a few that just said New York City. Some specifically said a borough, but they all got put right there. And a couple for Long Island. Connecticut, only 3. But New England in general is the part of the country where people tend to want to stay near where they're from. So Massachusetts is the #1 state for people being from there that want to stay there. So you see a whole bunch in Massachusetts, wooded areas near Boston, got Cape Cod. There are only a couple for Rhode Island, 1 of which is on Block Island. I didn't even know you could live there, but apparently you can. There's a small town there. Vermont, very popular. Burlington, Green Mountains. Surprisingly, not many for New Hampshire. Mostly they're right along the coast. And then a lot for Maine. Portland, if it weren't so cold in the winter in Portland, I might be living there right now. But Maine, very nice. Coastal areas, mountainous areas, wilderness lakes. So really popular. And so again, New England is the part of the country where people just tend to not want to leave. People like me, not from there, like, I ain't moving there. It's cold and snowy, but people that are there are used to it. People that are used to the cold are okay with the cold and don't want to move from it. And you don't see not a lot here. So again, very small sample size with this, but with people from here wanting to stay kind of near home and people in the South wanting to all go to North Carolina, I just find kind of interesting. Coming up into Canada, this part of the map looks really weird. There's a couple in Nova Scotia, and then you got 1 up here on Prince Edward Island. Quebec, got a few in Montreal, and a small town up there. Ontario, not a whole lot. You got Toronto here. This is Oshawa, maybe? Kingston? I think it's Kingston. But yeah, the nothing in Manitoba or Saskatchewan. So we have at least 1 in all of the states, but these 2 provinces, as well as New Brunswick, have none. So that's kind of how the things are looking right here in the contiguous West. Now let's take a look at Alaska and Hawaii. I'm sure you'll be shocked to see that there are many pins in Hawaii. Got 7 on the Big Island here, including 1 in the town of Volcano. Got several on Maui, and then you have several on Oahu, which is where Honolulu is. So quite a few in Hawaii. I think there are 18 total, so pretty good indication that that's somewhere that people would like to live. And then coming over into Alaska, got Homer, and Nothing else in some of these islands. These are Anchorage, and this is the Kenai Peninsula. So if I were to live in Alaska, I think this is where I'd want to be. This is Twin Lakes, a very well-known wilderness spot. But yeah, a lot of folks want to live in Hawaii, Alaska, outside of the contiguous U.S. All right, and coming over into Europe, there aren't as many for Europe, but there was enough to have a separate map just for this area. Got one up here in Iceland, the town of Vik. One here in the Faroe Islands, that's pretty cool. 3 in Ireland. Only 2 in the UK, and this one's in Wales. So only 1 in all of England, and this is London right here. 1 in Portugal, 2 in Spain, both Madrid and Barcelona. None in France, kind of interesting. 4 in Italy, mostly along the western side of the peninsula or in the Alps. Switzerland here. This is Germany, only 2 in Germany, Berlin, and I don't remember, Frankfurt, I believe that's what that is. Copenhagen, Denmark. 4 in Norway. These 2 white ones are just simply Norway General, Bergen, and pretty far up there north, Lofoten, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. Sweden here, Stockholm. Estonia, Riga, Latvia, and so nothing in Eastern Europe here, so not a whole lot in Europe, but there is a decent amount. Surprisingly few in the UK though. Okay, so now going into Latin America, there are 5 here in Mexico, including that one in Puerto Penasco that also shows up on the US map. Cabo San Lucas, Mexico City, Guadalajara. So a decent number there. You got 1 in Costa Rica. This is my dad's pin here on the coast in Ecuador. You got 1 in Patagonia down here. And then you got 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And 1 here is a random boat somewhere in the Caribbean. So I thought there'd actually be more of those, but that's still the only one. Coming over in Africa, only 3 pins, 1 here in Cape Town, South Africa, and these 2 are for Rwanda. So interesting that there are 3 for Africa and 2 are for Rwanda. And in case you're wondering, the Rwanda of today is not the Rwanda of 30 years ago. There's been an incredible progress there. This is Northern Israel General. This one's Northern Canada General. Someone just said, put me somewhere in Northern Canada. Well, there you go, buddy. I'm not sure what it's like right there, but that's Northern Canada. I don't remember the name of this town in China, but it's the only one in the country. There are 3 in Thailand, 2 near Bangkok, 1 here in the south coastal town. Got 4 in Taiwan. Pretty interesting that got 4 there. 4 also in Japan, including 1 on Hokkaido, Nagoya, and 2 in the Tokyo area. And then you've got Australia here, tropical Australia, Sydney, and I don't know what that one is. And then 1 in New Zealand. So not a ton along the world, but a decent number, enough to certainly have a map like this. So that's the update of the viewer pin map. If you're interested in supporting the channel and participating in this map, you can go to my Patreon page and you can sign up there and you can follow the instructions for how to get a pin. The information I want from you is where you're from, where you currently live, and then where you'd want the pin to be on the map. I'm also doing research with this to get an idea of people, how they want to move and what kind of movement patterns they prefer. So after getting the pins on the map, I keep a spreadsheet as to all the raw data, and you can go to my website, geographyking.com, and you can see the map here. You can look at it and zoom in on it if you want, but also there's Excel spreadsheets on there. You can look at the raw data of where all the pins are and just some of the things that went into going to this map. You'll see it more in written form. It might make a little more sense written down, but I do appreciate people that have participated in this map. I think it's a really cool, fun way to generate revenue, but actually get something out of it for you guys. You can represent your geography. So again, if you want to participate, go to the Patreon page and you can sign up there.